This speaker is named Neville Johnson. He passed away in September of 2019, but he's working for the Lord on the other side of the veil now. But before he passed away, he walked with the Lord for 4 or 5 decades. 4 to 5 decades. And anyway, since the 70s. And he would see the Lord every day. The Lord would come and sit with him and talk with him and minister to him and counsel him and teach him personally. And enough that the Lord would come and actually leave an imprint from where he sat on his sofa or wherever he was at. And he was translated all over the world to do different missions for God, such as he was translated, at one time he was translated to Queen Elizabeth's castle, and she was wondering how he got past all the guards and everything, and they were both stunned and shocked to see each other. And the Lord had given him a message to give Queen Elizabeth, and he gave it to her, and she actually did it. So wonderful. And another time, an angel came and picked him up while he was drinking coffee for breakfast, and took him down into the pits of hell. And they were doing inventory. There were some demons down there doing inventory on trophies that they had gotten from some of the people of God while they were walking on earth. And one of them was the crown of Solomon, the crown of wisdom. And he was told to retrieve it and bring it back to the Lord. And so they were walking down into the bottom, and the demons couldn't see him. So, but they sensed that something was wrong, and the demons were coming out of the walls. It was a very creepy situation. So, an angel was with them. They couldn't see the angel either, and so he grabbed the helmet that he was, the crown that he was supposed to grab, and then he ran up the stairs again, and then all of a sudden he was in paradise standing before the Lord, and he handed over the crown to the Lord. The Lord told him what it was, because he didn't know what it was. Crown of wisdom from King Solomon. And then the Lord said that he was going to distribute King Solomon's crown of wisdom, his mantle, all over the world to different individuals here in the last days, the end times, which we're in. And Neville Johnson, he is an end time minister. I mean, he was taught by God personally, and he's met Job and Paul, and he's been to heaven and paradise, the upper court, the lower court, the outer court. I mean, he's had many experiences over the past 40 to 50 years with working for the Lord. He would see the Lord come in when he was speaking, and many a times you could tell when the Lord came in, and you could see him because his voice would change. He'd get a little nervous and such. But he's amazing experiences. So you could check him out on on YouTube, or the Academy of Light, or World Wide Web, the Academy of Light. And go ahead and subscribe to the channel now if you like. Give a thumbs up so other people around the world can see it. And you can also check out his teachings on this channel. Just go to the playlist, and there's 3 of them. One for his son, his name is Mark Johnson, and there's one for this series. This is a great series. This is an amazing series. It will totally transform your mind if you listen to these. You're gonna have to listen to some of these more than once, because so much information is jam-packed. And if you spread it out, just listen to something every single day, spread it out over a couple of months, you will change. You will be able to have control over your memories, your thoughts, the way you think, your emotions. It's incredible. You'll be a totally different person after a period of time. All right, God bless you in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Be sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up. And you can leave a comment in the section below if you like. But enjoy the teaching. Keep learning, because you're going to need to know this stuff. Because we're in the end times, last days. It's game on. You're going to need to know this stuff. Otherwise, you might make some bad decisions in the future. And plus, by knowing these things, you'll know more than your average person. And you'll be ready for the upcoming events. There's going to be some crazy, tremendous, outstanding events happening here in the end times, last days. And you won't be shocked when they happen if you pay attention to Mr. Johnson's teachings, because he knows all about them. The Lord told him about them and everything. And you'll be ready. You'll be more ready. You'll be a strong tower for your family, your friends, your church, and especially for yourself. If you don't like surprises, delve into these teachings, and then you won't be so shocked and so surprised like the rest of the world will be. And you won't make as many mistakes also, too. God bless you in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Keep praying, keep studying, keep learning.
Thoughts about that person, so that it's not just as a choice. When Moses spoke to the Lord, he said, "Show me your ways, so that I might come to know you." Okay, we need to know how to come to God. We need to know his ways, and we need to know the principles of his presence. He said, "Teach me your ways, your laws. Teach me, Lord, how to come before you." And with Israel, the children of Israel, he was kind of grieved with that generation, 40 years in the wilderness. In Psalm 95:10, he said, 40 years long I was grieved with this generation, because it said they didn't know my ways. Now they received of his goodness, they received of his healing, they had manna from heaven, they had water out of the rock, they had all of that, but they didn't know God. How many of you know you can be thoroughly Pentecostal and not know God? Very little response from that. Let me say it again. You can be thoroughly Pentecostal and not know God. You can prophesy until you're blue in the face. You can have hands laid on your head until you're bald. But that will not make you know God. Okay? And Moses said, "God, show me your ways, that I might know you." Okay? And they didn't know the ways of God. They didn't enter into rest, into God's presence and walking with God. And, we get so complicated in our approach to the things of God. But there are certain laws we need to understand and practice. And, we talked about last week, if you remember, such things like love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness. They are not just attitudes. They are that, but they're not just attitudes. They're much, much more than that. They are a power. They are a form of light. When you manifest these things, you release a power, light, from your life. And, each of the attitudes radiates out from that person as a power. We need to understand this, a power, a vibration, a physical power. Hang on, we'll get them out. That's it, it's nearly there. Praise God. If you're listening to this on tape, we've got a pigeon in the meeting. We might need this other. Maybe we can leave the door open. Okay. Yes. Okay, you got them out. Praise God. So, every attitude, whether it's every negative, selfish, jealous attitude, anger, bitterness, unforgiveness, carries its own vibration, its own power, and which is discernible in the spirit as a realm, as a color, as a force, as a power, as light. And you will clothe yourself in that light and that power as you manifest these negative attitudes, and that power will draw you even further into it. And you will be clothed by it. Every trait that is manifest, good or evil, is manifest this way. Okay, there's a light and a power associated with it. Every evil carries its own dismal, depressing color and disintegrating vibration. We talked about Luke 11:35. Jesus said, "Be careful that the light in you doesn't become dark light." Okay, when our attitudes are negative, the light becomes a different color. It is a dark light. And we talked about this. Remember, putting on the garment of what? Praise for the spirit of heaviness. Putting on the garment of praise. And we looked at just what that really means. The word garment there means to wrap in a cloth or a veil. And the word praise is from a Hebrew root word halal, which means to shine with color. Okay, the word praise there means to shine, literally means to shine with color. So you don't realize when you are praising God, you begin to emanate something, which is discernible in the spirit realm by demons, by angels, but usually not by Christians. Okay? And if it's negative, it is dark light, it draws powers of darkness into it. If it is the light of God, then it draws that realm also into it. So putting on the garment, the covering, the clothing of praise, you see, the garment of praise, the garment of color and sound and light. Okay? And so we need to kind of appreciate that and understand that power flows out. Most don't realize your attitudes clothe you in either light or darkness, which is very discernible in the realm of the spirit. Okay? We touched on three primary virtues which are important. That is faith, to believe. Faith is important. There's a beautiful light and power and glory and beautiful blue light. Faith is manifest as blue in the realm of the spirit. All these colors around the throne of God. Praise is a glorious golden light. Thanksgiving, the deep red light. Now we talked primarily about Thanksgiving last week. I hope you've been doing it. You know, it's a very, very powerful thing. And if you don't practice this, if it doesn't become a way of life with you, you're not going to be able to go further in God. And so we looked at that, in depth. If you develop these attitudes, this flow from your life, you'll begin to change dramatically, And so we looked at all of that. And the law of God, health, provision, understanding, love, anything is multiplied by being thankful. Okay, so we looked at that in depth. And so I want to go on today from there. Hallelujah. And in Matthew 5:17, Jesus said, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I came not to destroy the law, but to fulfill it." And then in James 2:8 it says, "If you fulfill this royal law, this prime law, this royal law, according to the scriptures, which is, thou shalt love thy neighbor as yourself, you will do well." The prime law, the royal law, if you fulfill this, you'll do well. Okay, the Old Testament mainly deals with our approach to God through the law, sets of rules, okay? Ten Commandments, the law, and sets of rules. The New Covenant supersedes this with a higher law, which Jesus said was love. Okay, that's the only law, love. The New Covenant. The Old Testament approach to God is with offering sacrifices. They had to bring a lamb, a turtle dove, or a sacrifice, and various offerings they brought to the Lord. In the New Testament, there is only one sacrifice that is acceptable, and that is of a broken heart and a contrite spirit. It's the only acceptable offering in the New Testament. And this is highlighted in Luke chapter 18 and verse 11, where it talks about the Pharisee who stood and prayed to God and said, "God, I thank you. I'm not as these other men, extortioners, unjust. Even as this publican, I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I possess." And the publican, standing afar off, would not lift up as much as his eyes into heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, "Be merciful unto me, a sinner." Jesus said, "I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For every one that exalts himself shall be abased. He that humbles himself shall be exalted." So, you see the contrast. And, in 1 Peter 2:5, Scripture says that you are also living stones built into a spiritual house, a holy priesthood. Why? To offer up spiritual sacrifices. What are those spiritual sacrifices? To offer up spiritual sacrifices which are only acceptable to God. Okay? Psalm 51 verse 17 says, "The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart, O God, you will not despise." and a contrite heart. The word broken is the Hebrew word to open, to be broken asunder or to open. It also has the connotation of being honest with God, broken, being honest, and open. And the word contrite there is the word for being penitent, coming to the Lord. And so Jesus picked this up in Matthew 5 when it says, he said, blessed are the poor in spirit, but theirs is the kingdom of heaven. He's talking about an attitude, you see. Blessed are the poor in spirit, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Humility and penitence. And so, now, we hear a lot about dying to self. You know, there are books written on it. There are series in it. Dying to self. You have to die to self. You have to die to the flesh, you know. But what really does that mean? You know, what does it mean? You have to be very careful because as Christians, we are orientated towards law, not grace. And so we usually interpret scriptures in the light of law, not in the light of grace. So when it's talking about, you know, dying to self, dying to the flesh, what does it really mean? Well, for one, it has nothing to do with works. And has nothing to do with works. And has nothing to do with how you dress. You know, we have funny ideas of holiness. We have this kind of idea about holiness of abstaining from things. You know, you talk to people about consecration, you talk to people about sanctification, you talk to people about holiness, and the thing that springs to people's minds is that they have to give up something. What do you have to abstain from? You see, it always works. We give up something. We give up something for God, He's going to bless us. How many of you know that's not the basis of any form of blessing whatsoever in the entire New Testament? We give up something, you know. It's abstaining from, taking a vow of poverty. There is well, it's a big loss to you maybe, but that's about it. Certainly, you know, these are works to attain favor with God. Now that's an Old Testament concept. It's an Old Testament setting, you know, and so it has nothing to do with being holy, whether you wear makeup, whether you don't wear makeup, whether you wear your skirts above the knee or below the knee, whether you wear sleeveless dresses or non-sleeveless dresses. You know, got to get rid of all this garbage. It has nothing to do, I mean, God doesn't even notice it. It has nothing to do with coming to God and knowing Him. It has nothing to do with holiness whatsoever. Now, we need to kind of understand, you know, this whole thing about dying to self. The New Testament equivalent of dying to self is simply repentance, brokenness, and humility. You can put it all into that little nutshell. Dying to our will in order to embrace His will. Simple as that. Repentance, brokenness, humility, dying to our will. In other words, in order to embrace His will. Contrite and a broken spirit. That's what we're talking about, okay? Repentance, brokenness, humility, dying to our own will in order to embrace Him. God wants this in all of our worship and all of our prayers. You know, when we come from a contrite or a broken heart to God, it contains all of the outpourings of our burdens, our past mistakes, our pride, our weaknesses, our failures, our complete surrender to the will of God. That's kind of contrite spirit, being open up, an open heart or an open heart. The broken or an open heart is an honest heart before God. You see, the publican said, I'm not like these men. The Pharisee said, I'm not like these other men. I am this. But the other guy said to him, Lord, I don't even want to lift my head to you. You know, there was an attitude there in his heart of brokenness, you know. And so we're talking about in this brokenness, it's coming to God with honesty, with all of the things that trouble us in honesty, all of the burdens, our past mistakes, our pride, our weaknesses, our failures, with a complete surrender of our will to Him. And when you learn to bring this kind of offering, this kind of sacrifice to the Lord, you then will begin to open yourself to the grace of God, to receive His love. You see, and these are the requirements to receive His light and His glory. See, we're talking about over the last few weeks about God's going to visit His people. And when He does, it's going to be deep repentance and all of those kind of things. And that is true. But you know, it is never God's highest to come with such a level that it almost kills us through repentance. God wants us to approach Him with an open and honest heart. And when that comes, that move of God comes, it will enhance far greater than what we've got from God. We need to begin to move now towards that. And today, we need to keep those things important in our mind. What is holiness? What is it? Not things we abstain from. It's an attitude of heart. You see, a contrite and a broken heart, an honest heart, coming before God. And it's you see, whenever God is breaking out around the world, He's breaking out, first of all, where ministers are being honest with God. The leaders are being honest and saying, Lord, what we've got is really, we don't have anything. We've missed it by miles. We don't have anything to offer the world. We don't have enough of God to even interest the world. That's an open and a contrite, broken heart. Wherever leaders around the world are beginning to pray like that, God is beginning to move. That's a sacrifice, kind of sacrifice that God wants. Now, today, I want to talk to you about the river of life as it relates to all of this, the river of life. And you need to have an open mind, because I want to talk to you about some things which you're going to need an open mind for, okay? So, in Revelation chapter 22, verse 1, it said, and He showed me a pure river of water of life, okay? A river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. And in the midst of the street in it, and on either side of the river, there was the tree of life, which bore 12 manner of fruit, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. Okay? Afterwards, He brought me again, this is Ezekiel 7:47 now, verse 1. I just read in Revelation 22, now I'm reading from Ezekiel 47:1. Afterwards, He brought me again unto the door of the house, and behold, waters, a river issued out from under the threshold of the house eastward. For the forefront of the house stood towards the east, and the waters came down from under the right side of the house, of the south side of the altar. This is the temple. And He said unto me, these waters issue out towards the east country, and go down to the desert, and go into the sea, which when they come into the sea, the waters of the sea shall be healed. And it shall come to pass that everything that liveth and moves, whithersoever that river shall come, it shall live. And there shall be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come hither. For they shall be healed, and everything liveth where the river came, where the river touched. Now, we're familiar with that passage of Scripture. Now, when we're talking about the river of life here, we're talking about there's a river pure crystal, talked about in Revelation 22. We're not talking, this river is real. We're not talking metaphorically. The writer wasn't using poetic language here. This is a real river. Okay, I've seen this river in heaven, but from quite a distance, but I've seen this river. It is a real river, and it is spiritual in substance, but it looks like water, but it's spiritual in substance. It is very, very real. And, we often think of this river, that you have to cross the river, when you die. When we die, before we enter fully into heaven, we have to go through the river, and the river washes away all the filth and the effects and the results of sin in our lives, the bad memories and mistakes, and all are washed away and forgotten. And, we sing hymns about crossing the river. Shall we gather at the river? Row, row, row the boat. like, shall we gather at the river? Crossing the river, and it's very real. There is a river when people die, and particularly when they die, and that they come to the outer gates, they come to just the brink of paradise, and they have to go through this river, because it washes away the memories. It is a river of life. It is powerful. It is healing. It is the very life of God flows in this river. The very love and the life of God flows in it. And it fits them to be able to kind of handle heaven, where there's no impurities. And so this is part of that. But, and I want to read something about that. How many of you read the book Intramuros? Intramuros? Nobody's read that book? Intramuros? Intramuros is Latin. It is Latin. The book's not in Latin. It's Latin for within the gates. It means within the gates, okay? It was written about a century ago, okay? It's gone under a number of different names, but you should get a hold of it. You should read it by Rebecca Springer. And this lady who died was in heaven. Well, in heaven for, I think, 3 years, according to their time. There's a difference between earth and heaven, time-wise. But I want to just read a little bit from that, because she dies, and her brother meets her, and she is so weak because she's been incredibly sick while on earth, and he picks her up and carries her across after she's dead. Now, he carries her, and he said, he lifted me gently to my feet. He said, come, I want to show you the river. When we reached the brink of the river, which were just a few steps further on, I found that I was right at the water's edge of this river. I saw flowers blooming all the way down to the river's edge, and many colored pebbles which the entire bed of the river was lined. I want you to see these beautiful stones, he said my brother, stepping into the water and urging me to do the same. I drew back timidly, saying, I fear it is cold. You don't remember, when she died, she was very sick. Not at least, he said, with a reassuring smile. He said, just come in as you are. She said, I glanced down at my lovely robe, and which to my great joy I found was similar to the rest of those people around here in this place. And just as you are, with another reassuring smile, he said, come. Thus encouraged, I stepped into the gently flowing river, and to my great surprise found the water in both temperature and density almost identical with the air. Deeper and deeper grew the stream as we waded into it, until I felt the soft water playing about my throat. As I stopped, my brother said, just a little further. And I said, it will go over my head. And then the brother said, so what? She said, I cannot breathe underwater. I will suffocate. An amused twinkle came into his eyes and said soberly, we don't do those things here. Which is true. You don't suffocate in heaven. I realized the absurdity of my position, and with a happy smile said, all right, I'll come in, and plunged headlong into the water, which soon bubbled and rippled several feet above my head. To my surprise and delight, I found I could not only breathe, but laugh and talk and see and hear as natural underwater as above it. I sat down in the midst of these many-colored pebbles and filled my hands with them. My brother lay down upon them as he would have done on a lawn, and laughed and talked joyously with me. Then, she goes through a whole kind of thing of this whole thing. She said, I'll have to skip a bit. Behold, as we neared the shore, my head once more emerged from the water. The moment the air struck my face and hair, I realized that I would need no towel or hairbrush. My flesh and hair and even my garments were soft and dry as before as the water touched them. The material out of which my robe was fashioned was unlike anything I'd ever seen on earth. It was soft and emitted light, reminding me of silk crepe and anything I could recall, only much, much more beautiful. It fell about me in soft, graceful folds. She said, what marvelous water, what wonderful air, I said to my brother as we again stepped out of the river. And then she said, I felt something. She said, I walked a few steps and turned and looked back at the river and said, Frank, what has this water done to me? I feel like I could fly. Like all of the memories of my past, the earthly bad memories have been washed away. It is washed away in the last of the earth life and fitted me for the new life upon which I have just entered. And so she goes on and on. Just a little further in the book, she talks about a guy who had just murdered his mother and had repented just before he was executed. And he goes on to say that I had most difficulty dealing with this person and to enlighten and help this man who suddenly plunged from an apparently honorable life into the very depths of crime. I have never been able to get him to come with me to the river where these earthly cobwebs would be swept from his brain. His excuse being always that God's mercy is so great in allowing him inside heaven's gates at all that he is content to remain on the lowest scale of enjoyment in life. No argument or teaching thus far could make him alter his decisions. He was led astray and killed his mother and was executed and repented just prior to him being executed. He said, does his mother know he is here? Does she know his arrival? No. He said she is entirely unaware of his arrival. And should I go and tell her to help him get through to this place of coming to the river? She said, how long was he in prison? Almost a year. Has he seen Christ yet in heaven? No. He begs not to see him. He is very repentant and grateful to be saved from the wrath he feels was his just punishment. But though he is conscious that his sin is forever forgiven, he does not yet feel that he can ever stand in the presence of Jesus. And so it goes on for a while. Finally they brought his mother, and his mother could convince him to come down to the river with her. My father had explained to the mother that the first thing to be accomplished was to get her son to the river, so we now hear her speaking to him. Eventually they got him to the river. Thank God, my father said fervently, there will be no further trouble now, because the river will wash away the memories, the past, all of the hurtful things, all of the bad things out of his life. After this divine washing in the river, he came forth a changed person. You know, there's a lot more in that book about the realm of heaven. The point here is this. See, we often think of this river as being in heaven, and that we die, we have to pass through the river. It does the final cleansing in our life. You know, all of the last things that have to be gone from our life. The things we've held on to, the bitterness and the memories and all of those things would finally, when we go through that river, they'll be washed away. And that is true. However, while all that is true, it was never God's best that we wait for death to cross the river for all of this to happen. Ezekiel saw this river flowing into the earth out of the house of God. And the Lord, you see, is coming for a church without spot and without wrinkle. A church that has been through that river, lives in that river, while here on earth. There is a river in these last days that's going to flow from the house of the Lord. And it says, every person that river touched was healed. And it's a strong Hebrew word which means to be totally made whole. And it says the fish, it touched the fish of the sea, that's the coming harvest. It says every one of them were healed when that river began to flow into the earth. You can imagine this incoming harvest with all of the problems that the people have in the world today and all of the things that this generation has been into. They're going to need that river on the earth long before they ever get to heaven. And this is what Ezekiel, you see, was talking about. He said, wherever the river flowed, it brought life. They shall live. And there was a very, very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come here, and they shall be healed. And everything the river touched was healed. There is a river, you see, that is available to us here and now. And, the Lord is coming for a church that has been through that river. Now, this river runs between the two realms, almost earth and heaven. It's just in the entering stages of paradise. It's in the outer court, just where the laver was in the tabernacle, which contained the water. It just as symbolically as crossing Jordan takes us into the promised land. So, going through this river will take us into our promised land here and now in this life. And this river is a divine substance. It's incredible life and power. It's a river of life, and it's an incredible river that flows from the throne of God here into the earth. And then this next move of God, this river is going to flow with such power into this earth that multitudes upon multitudes will not just be swept into the kingdom of God, not just millions of people swept into the kingdom of God, but they'll be healed, they'll be restored, they'll not even have memories of the bad things they've been into. That river will erase it all until he has a bride on this earth without spot and without wrinkle, without any bad memories of the past, without any bitterness, with all hurt is swept away, and they stand as a perfect bride before the Lord. And God will not be satisfied until that is achieved, and he will not come again until that is achieved. Peace offering. Now the church is way below, living way below all of that. The church is way, way below all of those things. We preach it, we talk about it, but we don't experience it. Right? We don't experience it, right? Okay, just good to get a good confession of honesty. Okay. And it's, this river is an incredible river. It's flowing through the vast glory of God's love is this river. And you can contact this river by contacting the love of God. You say that again. You can contact this river by contacting the love of God. This is a law of life, and the flowing of this river, this stream, this river, it is a river of God's concentrated love. See, God is love. It's the outflowing of God. God is love and God is light, two things. It's the outflowing of God. It comes out of the heart of God, from under the threshold into the earth, and it is concentrated love. We need to think about this because it's the key to many things. And, we are so works orientated. We are so, what pleases God. We have, our service, our sacrifices. They don't please God. Even our service to him doesn't please him. We need to serve him, but that's not the thing that pleases him. What we abstain from, what we give up for God. God is not interested in you giving up. It doesn't work that way. How we are changed by becoming holy, by abstaining, doing something. No, we are changed by coming into contact with God, who is love. And when you connect with God, who is love, something in you will die. Something, you'll never be the same again. Your desires, your wants will never be the same again. But it's a coming into a connecting with God, who is love. Now, we had real difficulty understanding this. This river is a river of God's concentrated love, and it holds the power of restoration and cleansing. It holds the power to wash away the effects and the results of sin in a person's life. You see, the problem is we get saved and our sins are forgiven, but the effects of those sins remains within our life. The memories and the effects, the damage that sin has done, and that's passed on to the next generation. You see, this river of love contains the power to wash all of that out, but it's not of works, it's of love. In the Old Testament was always works, what we can bring and give to God. The New Testament was the other way around. Is what God could give to us. And, It washes away the weaknesses, the generational weaknesses, the transgressions, the sins, with all the lingering hurts and all of the memories of that thing. But you see, we have to come to God with a broken and a contrite spirit, an honest heart, an honest and a contrite heart, bringing before God our condition, holding them out to God's love, and this river can wash it away. You see, this river is eventually going to restore the earth. It flowed into the earth, and the trees that grew out of this river were for the healing of the nations. I want to talk to you sometime over the next few weeks about relating to nature, because nature is not just an abstract thing. Nature is living, and every form of nature has some form of memory, and and every form of nature responds to love or hate. It will respond. The trees out there, the animals you have in your home or whatever will respond. The tree, they have a chemical memory, and it's very, very interesting. It's the trees and the whole of nature around you is affected by the light and the power that's emanating from you. And if it is dark light, they're not affected very well. If it is God's light, they respond. Nobody lives unto themselves. You have an effect wherever you go. The Bible says nobody lives unto himself or dies unto himself. You have an effect wherever you go. You leave behind you a trail. Wherever you go. You can't turn it off because you're emanating this light, this power, this glory, or this dark light. See, and we need to understand these things. We need to appreciate these things, and as we come before God, with this, in this way, this river, it's eventually going to restore the earth. But this river is going to be flowing where from? Out of us eventually. Once that river, as you've been in that river flows through you. You see? Now, the way into the river, we enter this river by a divine law, which is the royal law of the kingdom. Okay? It is the law of love. Now, it says, but in 1 John 2:5 it says, whosoever keepeth his word, that was the word of Jesus, in him, verily, the love of God is perfected. Okay. If we keep his word, the person who keeps the word of Jesus says, in him, the love of God is going to be perfected. What word? What was he talking about? What was John talking about if we keep his word? He talking about keeping the whole Bible? No. You got to take it in the context of what he was talking about. He was talking about to keep his word. It says in 1 John 5:1-5 goes on, then this is the word which you've heard from him from the beginning, that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. Chapter 2 verse 10 says, if you love your brother, you abide in the light, and there's no occasion of stumbling. He said, John 13:34, a new commandment I give unto you, what? That you love one another as I have loved you, that you love one another. John 15:17, these things I command you, that you love one another. And so, John was talking about this. He was referring back to the words of Jesus. He said in 1 John 2:5, but if you keep his word, the law that Jesus taught you, he said the love of God will be perfected in you. In other words, if you love will be perfected in you. See, we talked about last week, once you start emanating something, that light which you emanate, if you emanate love or forgiveness or thankfulness, that light, that power comes from you as a power, as a light, and it embraces you, it's wrapped in you, and it takes you further into it. As you love, you wrap yourself in a garment, just like when you praise, you wrap yourself in that garment of light and color. When you love, this has an effect. You emanate something of the love of God, you begin to love, then God's love will begin to fill you. Now, It was very simple what he was trying to say. If you love, love will be perfected in you. And you'll begin to enter this river of God, which is the stream of his life. That river is the river of love. And as you become love, this river flows to you and through you and out of you. Now, we Pentecostals always want to do something. You know? God said, for goodness sake, just love. If you do this, you fulfill all of the commandments. Just love. I want to go to another convention to get something more. You come back just the same. See, it's not in all of the knowledge of all of those things. It's understanding the ways of God. You know, I just want to be prophesied over and I'll change. Oh, no, you won't. The moment you get prophesied over, things are going to get worse for you. Right? We talked about that. We spent one whole sermon on that. Okay? They'll get worse. If it's from God, things will get worse for you. So it's not in that, right? And if you don't believe, I'm going to get the tape on that prophetic there. You need to understand that, the realm of prophecy. You see, Jesus says, for goodness sake, I've made it simple. And if you just love everything. Love nature, love each other, love your friends, love your enemies. He said, if you do that, you'll begin to emanate something. And in that, what you emanate is pure love will begin to transform you, will begin to change you. You will be changed. It's as simple as that. You will be changed. Love will transform you. It gives you access to the river. You know? It will purify, it will sanctify you, it'll make you whole and free. It'll give you access into that realm of God. You see, once that river has touched your life and begins to flow through you, you can step into heaven. You can step into the promised land while still here on the earth. That was the doorway in. Everybody who dies has to pass through that river before they can really handle heaven. Has to do something in their life. While here on earth, the Bible talks about days of heaven upon earth. If we're going to live in that, we have to go through that river. And we enter into that river because it is a river of pure, concentrated love. If you start to just do this one thing and begin to perfect it in your life, you'll step into the river. And I tell you, that thing will so change you. It is power beyond our comprehension. You know? You can come with thanksgiving. We talked about last week about thanksgiving. We just say something. The color of love is white, but it enhances all of the other colors. If you are giving thanksgiving with pure love, the light that comes from thanksgiving will become more vivid, more powerful, more vibrant if it's connected with love. Now, it's important to recognize, you know, not only that, you see, what we clothe ourselves in spiritually, we're talking about a light and power, a vibration, light and power, energy source. What you clothe yourself in affects your physical body and affects your soul. And if it's negative, it's going to affect your physical body. Negative, you'll get weaker. You'll begin to get older quicker. You'll begin to degenerate at a much faster rate because it is a power that works in your flesh, your physical body. However, if the reverse is true and you walk in love and light and forgiveness, that power clothes you also. It is the greatest beauty treatment you can ever have. You see, there's going to be a generation on this earth will overcome the last enemy, which is death. And this is not going to be some sovereign act of God. It's going to be because the people have already been through this river and they already are being transformed. Death, you see, is the last. It was never, and it still is never God's perfect will for us to die. Enoch proved that. And others in the Word of God. You see, we live below the conditions which allow us to live at that realm, and love will transform you. It will touch every atom of your being, will be affected. Healing, restoration, purification will begin to take place. You'll be anointed with light. When you begin to love God with your mind, whole heart, and your soul, when we're talking about loving God, it's not just words. We need to spend time alone with God doing one thing, and that's just loving Him. With your mind, and with feeling, with your emotions, and with strength. And you need to just spend time just doing that. You don't even have to necessarily speak, although it sometimes makes it easier when you do speak. But you need to spend time just loving God, coming to Him. Because if you do that, you see, if you come to the place where your mind and your lips lose the power to hurt, you will step into this river. Let me say that again. When you come to the place where your mind and your lips lose the power to hurt, you will step into the river.
This is superpower.
And I can feel the anointing on that so strongly. Let me say it again, okay? It's really important. When your mind and your lips lose the power to hurt, you will step into the river. And when you step into the river, you will be totally transformed. Totally transformed. See, we're not just talking here about attitudes. Our attitudes are a power. They emanate power. That power clothes, you are clothed with it negatively or positively. And it will draw you into itself further and further and further. The more you love, the more you'll be drawn into it. And into the love of God. But you see, when your mind and your lips lose the power to hurt, you see, you can forgive someone but still think real bad about them. Your mind hasn't lost the power to not hurt anymore. And what you think, you will speak. In Romans 13, and verse 8 says, owe no man anything but love one another. For he that loves one another doth fulfill the law. And it says, went on to say in verse 10 of Romans 13, now listen, he said, love doesn't work any evil to his neighbor. It's got nothing to do with whether it's good to us or bad to us. It says, love worketh no evil to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the whole law. See, these are the keys to the kingdom. And to be honestly, Pentecostals have missed it by a mile. They don't understand the ways of God. They've missed it by miles. And so we keep on down this road, and we become more and more frustrated. We get touches of God in a meeting. But a week later, you're just the same. If you're honest. Now, God's after permanent change in our lives. You see, it's the pathway to glory, this. You see, 1 Corinthians 2:9, Paul said this because Paul knew this round we're talking about. He said, it's written, Paul said, eye has not seen, nor has your ear ever heard. It hasn't even entered into your heart the things that God hath prepared for those who love. You've never dreamt what is ahead for those who just love. That's what he was saying. It is the way into the manifest presence of God, because it opens this river to you. This river is available here in this life, and it opens that river to you. And you need to learn to perfect love. It's an attitude. Secondly, it's a state of mind. Thirdly, it is a choice. When someone hurts you or betrays you or whatever, it is not enough that you don't hate them. That is not enough. Okay? Or it's not enough that you don't dislike them anymore. It's not enough that you don't retaliate. That's all passive. God says you have to love them. One starts in the mind. That's the hard thing. The way you think about them. Okay? The way you think about them. You got to love them in your mind, first of all. Okay? Then you got to love them with feeling. That's your emotions. But you can't love them with feeling until you first get this right, loving them with your mind, the way you think about them. Okay? Now look, everybody gets it wrong at times. Everybody makes mistakes. Everyone does the wrong thing at times, right? You're going to be betrayed by someone, by quite a number of people by the time you grow old. That's life. Okay? It's just life. Okay? And everybody is not going to like you. Self-betrayal. Everybody's not going to like you. Why should they? Everybody's not going to like you. You're going to face rejection. That's life. Did you see? Those things can hurt you. They can destroy you. They can make you bitter. They can leave scars on your life which really never get healed. And the bottom line is two things. Forgiveness, but that's not enough. That's part of it. Forgive them and to love them. And that means to love them not just by choice from your mind, but also with feeling from the heart. You love that person. You got to think the way you sit down and think love towards them. You must send out love with power and strength of mind, emotion, and will. Love them in your mind. Develop it. If you begin to develop love in every situation, wherever you meet, everywhere, under all circumstances, not just people, but nature and life and things and all of the good things around us, the stars, the moon, everything. Look at all of the good things in this world. I'm even talking about the things that even man has created. Man's created some wonderful things. You can love architecture. You can love all kinds of things. You need to become love. You see, we Christians are so narrow-minded. God says love everything. Everything. Francis of Assisi had such a relationship with the animal kingdom because of love that they became totally his friends. The animals would just became his friends. And he could relate to them. You know? And if you don't fear an animal, it will never hurt you. Because perfect love casts out fear. The strongest vibration that animals feel is fear. And the negative, the strongest they feel on the other side is love. See, the whole of creation responds to love because God is love. The universe is powered by love, which becomes light in its outflowing power. The whole of the world in which we live. See, Christians, I don't know what's wrong with them. They don't appreciate life. They don't appreciate it. The little things in life, They don't see the wonder of God in things. They don't love life. And so they live a very narrow kind of walk. If you want to know God, God loves everything. You want to be compatible with Him? He said He created the world and He saw that it was good. How do you look at the world? And you walk along the beach, how do you look at it? What goes out of your life towards it? Love God as an act. Mind, emotion. Spend time doing it. Send it forth. It comes out of you as light. God's love will enfold you and begin to change you. See, of all of the attitudes, love is the strongest vibration, the strongest power that goes out of your life is love. And, if you love, you will be made whole. Okay? If you love, you perfect and develop love, you will be made whole. Not only that, you will, listen to me, you will stop aging. Because the love that flows through your life will touch every atom of your being. You see? Enoch knew this. He walked with God and never died. You see, he walked in the presence and the life and the light of God. You need to pray that Lord to help you with this and give you love, help you with love, but you have to exercise love, you know? And you can love or perish. Over to you. But if you love, you'll live. If you don't love, you will perish. You'll get old. You say, well, I've already got old. Yeah, that's true, because we didn't understand these things. And very few through the years, only very few, a handful of people who knew the Lord understood these principles. And all of them walked off this planet without dying through the river into the presence of God. Now you see, I want to we've got to open our mind just a little wider to the greatness and what God really, has intended for us and what his purposes for us is and how we are changed. We're not changed by law, keeping rules. We're changed by love. That's the thing that changes you. That's all you have to do. Jesus said, if you do this, you fulfill all the law. You fulfill all the laws of righteousness and every other law. You will just love. It is such a power. The Bible says love never fails. It has never yet failed to achieve. Love never fails. It's impossible for love to fail. You see, and you put on this clothing of love and light, and it flows from you, and it flows through you, and it begins to change you. You see, when Paul was dealing with the gifts of the Spirit, 1 Corinthians 12, and he went through the gifts of the Spirit, which Pentecostals are very familiar with. Look, he went through in gifts of the Spirit, and, 1 Corinthians 12 talks about the whole chapters on spiritual gifts, okay? And he gets to the end of that chapter, the last verse, and he said, but listen to me, after all of this, he said, I will show you now a more excellent way. After talking about all the gifts of the Spirit, he said, I'll show you something better. I'll show you a better way. He said, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and don't have love, I'm just a sounding brass and a tinkling cymbal. And he said, even though I have the gift of prophecy and understand mysteries, knowledge, have not love, he said, I am nothing. Okay? A lot of people are going to eventually stand before God and say, Lord, we did this in your name, we did that in your name, we prophesied over hundreds of people, we healed the sick. And he'll look at you, and the gifts are not there anymore, they're just gifts. You didn't earn them, you didn't deserve them. And he'll look at you, look at the light around you, and the light around you will betray you. Because the kind of light that is coming out of you is really the kind of person who you are on the inside. It doesn't take much discernment if you can see the colors around a person, what kind of person they are. And we'll stand before God one day, not be judged on our gifts or any of that. We didn't earn them, didn't merit them. They don't gain us any brownie points at all. They look at you and say, what's coming out of your life? What kind of light? And that light is generated by our attitudes. And he'll look at that and we'll be judged on that. It'll be very clear, be very apparent to everybody in heaven when we step through those doors what kind of light we are emitting. The light you emit is an accurate picture of who you are. If it's dark light, demons flow into it. If it's God's light, glory light, God flows into it and surrounds you. Becomes a way of life. Now, you can hear all this and not do it. Okay? You can hear all this and say, well, that was interesting. Oh, I think it's interesting too, but this thinking that's interesting won't change you. Okay? You have to become it by choice, by deliberately doing it. Start by spending just some time quietly with God, just loving Him. Come with a penitent and broken heart, with all your failures, all of that, and then say, God, only you can change me. I can't change myself. The church can't change me. And just come before God and say, God, the only thing that can change me is your love. That's the river, the flow of God's love. And just begin to love Him. First with your mind, and with some strength from your heart, your emotions. And to love Him. Begin to strengthen it. Begin to perfect it. Begin to let your love go towards God. In fact, you need to do that more than praying at the present time. Because eventually, if you do that, you'll be clothed in the armor of light. And you will be protected. Well, you need to pray, of course. Don't go out of here and say, Neville Johnson says we don't have to pray. Okay, you need to pray. But this is a priority right now. If we don't get this right, we're not going to be ready for that wave that's coming in. Okay? And so it's not difficult. You got to love life. Love life. Love everything. Love people. Love your garden. Love the trees. Love the animals. Love God's kingdom. Love the universe. Love life. You see something which is really a nice design, nicely designed and so on, love it. How many of you know God's a great designer? Those designs come out of His nature, of who He is. Just love life. Okay? Don't live in the past. Live in the present. Live in the now. Come before God. Perfect these attitudes. Continue with thanksgiving. You must keep that one up. We talked about last week. It's really, really important. But the thing that enhances all of these other things is this one central flow of love. Just begin to love. Now, some of you have been really hurt by people, and you still can't, you're still not over it, you still have attitudes. You know, you've got to get past just forgiving the person. Because that won't take you where God intends you to take it to the first stage. You've got to love that person. You know? God views things very differently than we do. He looks at circumstances behind people and why they do things, and how these things come about. We only see our side of it, you know? God sees a much overall picture, a better picture than we do. We're not clever enough to judge anyone. We're just not with it enough. We're not clever enough. We don't know the reasons, the background, the circumstances, the upbringing, the hereditary problems. We don't know all of those things. We don't know those things. We're not clever enough to judge a person. But we should be smart enough to love them. Because if you don't, it's to your detriment. Okay? So how do you do it? You do it by choice. You forgive. You do it by choice. You love. One, by choice. And then you get your mind in harmony with your choice. And you begin to think loving thoughts about that person. So that it's not just as a choice. You're loving them with your mind. And then you begin to love them with your heart. And there's an outflow of love. You want the very best for that person. You pray for the very best for that person. You're happy when good things happen to them. Because you love them. When you do that, the hurt that was caused by that circumstances, whether it was their fault, your fault, or a bit of both, will be healed. And the scar that's gone into your life will be healed out of that circumstances. See, love makes you whole. It makes you whole. And when you come to that place where you've lost the ability to hurt with your thinking and your mouth, then you're going to be clothed in light. Not hard. There's not some mystical formula here. There's not some religious thing you have to do. Just love. And get it right, perfect it. And you will be transformed. You will be transformed. How many of you know there are people out there, there are more people who love God outside of the church than are in the church today? And you know, some of these people are walking in much higher realms than we are in church. That might shock us Pentecostals, but it's true, because it has nothing to do with our religious formulas. It's got to do with who we are and how we love. That opens up that river. Jordan, or that river of life, was the gateway, stepping stone to the promised land. And you only, because it is a river of love, you can only get it into it by loving God, lower your heart, and your neighbor as yourself. You'll get into the river and you'll be transformed. Now our mind will try and tell us it's not that easy. We've got to do something. The religious thing again. You've got to resist that with all of your heart. This is grace. We have the capacity to love. God made us that way. Just do it. Not the religious thing. Stop praying 3 times a day. I know that will do you good, but that won't transform you. It's the attitudes. It's what you are clothed in that transforms your soul into His likeness. Let's pray. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Lord, I just pray today that you'll take these words, Lord, take truth, take, Lord, the truth that sets us free and just fasten it within the hearts of your people. Just fasten it in their hearts and in their minds. Lord, most people are saying there's got to be a better way than this. And it's because we've missed the way. We've gone onto other paths which are not the way. Oh, there might be good paths and even religious paths, but they're not the way to transformation. I just pray, Lord, that you will cause it to be fixed in our heart and in our minds, and that it develop a hunger. And out of the simplicity, Lord, of these, the laws of your kingdom, keys to your kingdom, the keys, these, Lord, like Moses said, show me your ways, Lord, so that we can really know you. And it's like God said, Moses, I am love. I show you my glory. My glory is love. That's the way in. That's the way to know me. Just love and you will know me. Jesus said, if you will do my words, do what I say, you'll become children of light. Father, I just pray today in Jesus' name that you'll take these words and affect change within us, within our hearts, within our direction of life, in the way we approach things. Lord, cause us to change. Lord, it's not hard. It does require some discipline of breaking off the old ways of approach, coming to you with simplicity, broken in a contrite spirit, and being changed as we dwell in you and your love. We give love. Your love enfolds us, and the power of that love, the power of that light which covers us begins to transform us, changes into your likeness, touching every cell of our body, making us whole, free. Lord, we thank you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Praise God. Praise God. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord Jesus.
So go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you like. And like I said, continue to listen to these teachings. There's a playlist in the description area below. Listen to at least one of them every day. You know, listen to them 2 or 3 times. And get this, if you get this right, your life is going to be so much better. Or you can just go to the Academy of Light on YouTube or World Wide Web. Speaker's name was Neville Johnson. Have a great day in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Oh, give a thumbs up if you like the video so other people around the world can listen to the teaching, and subscribe to the channel.